the weight I carried alone. I woke one morning convinced something was pressing inside me. Heavy, immovable, like a shape living in my bones that hadn't been there before. At breakfast, the knife in my hand felt foreign, sharp enough to cut my palm, yet I didn't notice until a line of blood appeared. The mirror reflected me accurately, yet my eyes didn't belong. They watched, judging, calculating, as though a stranger had slipped into my skull overnight. I tried to scream, but the sound twisted in my throat, rising backward. Like the walls themselves had swallowed the vibration of my voice. Every movement felt delayed, measured against an internal clock I hadn't recognized until my own body refused to obey instinct. I went to work, but noticed my reflection in the elevator. My mouth moved slightly before I thought the words. In meetings, I gestured wrong, laughed when I shouldn't have, and felt a presence shaping my hands, teaching them to betray me subtly. My apartment smelled different at night, faintly metallic, faintly sweet, like the inside of my own body had been hollowed and left open to air. I woke to find my fingers bruised, knuckles blackened, as if I had been punching something or someone while unconscious, but nothing in the room could explain it. At lunch, I accidentally cut my tongue, but the taste wasn't blood. It was familiar, mine, but older, alien, as though I'd known it in another life. I tried to write in my journal. The words rearranged themselves as I wrote, spelling thoughts I hadn't conceived, confessions I didn't intend to make. At night, I felt something crawl beneath my skin, a shifting weight that moved with curiosity, sometimes slowing, sometimes halting when I stared at it. I couldn't sleep. Even closing my eyes made the presence more tangible, more deliberate, like it wanted to be studied, traced, understood. The bathroom mirror became unbearable. It reflected me, smiled differently than I did, mouth twitching in ways I didn't control, eyes flicking to corners I couldn't see. At work, I found tiny scratches on my forearm, fine as a needle's tip, spiraling in patterns that suggested intelligence I had never encountered before. I stopped touching anything. Utensils, pens, doors, everything became a vector, a medium for something learning how I moved, how I reacted, how I could be guided. I caught myself walking in circles, following instructions I didn't know I had heard. My body obeying a set of rules I hadn't written. The taste of metal lingered in my mouth constantly, subtle at first, then persistent, like my bloodstream was an open letter to someone else. I noticed subtle changes in my voice. Words sometimes emerged with an accent, a cadence I didn't recognize, phrases that belonged to someone else entirely. People started reacting to me differently. Their eyes lingered too long, smiles faltered, as though they felt the thing inside me breathing through my body. I tried isolating myself, but it only grew stronger. The silence amplified it, made it more precise, sharper, aware of every small twitch of my hands. Sometimes I woke paralyzed. Nothing touched me, but I could feel its weight, settling across my chest, coiling inside my limbs, watching what I attempted to do. I began leaving notes to myself, reminders: move slowly, watch hands, avoid mirrors. Morning, the notes had shifted, rewritten in handwriting that wasn't mine. I saw myself in reflective surfaces, in stores, in cars, in windows, and sometimes I wasn't alone. A shadowy version of me mimicked actions before I made them. The sensation of being observed grew unbearable. My body moved with its instruction even when I consciously resisted, a duality I couldn't reconcile or control. I tried running, walking miles, leaving familiar streets behind. It didn't matter. Every movement was anticipated, predicted, my legs obeying a rhythm I hadn't set, my thoughts fractured. I didn't know where I ended and it began. Every impulse, every hesitation, every glance reflected duality I couldn't untangle. At night, I felt it in my skull, pressing, twisting, turning, sometimes sharp, sometimes dull, always patient, always deliberate, and undeniably alive inside me. I stopped looking outside, stopped listening to conversations, stopped trusting perception itself. The outside world became irrelevant compared to the shifting weight within. I began talking to it, whispering questions, demands, pleas. Times it responded, shaping words in my mouth I hadn't planned to say. I woke one morning calm, aware that I had merged with it, that my body, my thoughts, my impulses were no longer entirely mine. Even now, walking through crowds, eating, sleeping, the weight inside me teaches patience, precision, and subtle cruelty. I can't remove it, and I don't want to. The thing that learned my body. I moved into the house because it was cheap, it's quiet, and far from the road. The kind of place where nobody noticed when a person vanished for a week or two. The first night, I felt it. A presence in the floorboards, subtle, patient. Like the house itself was watching me stumble through the dark. I blamed the wind at first, or the floor settling, until the whispers came low, careful, shaped like my own voice in words I hadn't spoken. Furniture shifted subtly while I slept. Chairs angled wrong, drawers ajar, books stacked differently, each tiny adjustment a reminder that I was being studied. I woke to scratches along my forearms one morning, shallow, jagged, deliberate. I didn't remember touching myself, and yet the marks were undeniably mine. Mirrors became unbearable. My reflection sometimes lingered behind itself, subtle distortions moving independently, mimicking gestures I hadn't made, learning how I carried myself. The stairs creaked under invisible weight, pacing me through the house as if it wanted to practice following my steps perfectly. Sometimes I woke on the floor, sheets twisted, pillows missing, furniture slightly rearranged, as if the house had rearranged me while I slept. I left notes everywhere. Lock doors, close windows, check mirrors. Every morning they were gone, rewritten in my handwriting, wrong enough to unsettle me completely. Footsteps began echoing from room to room, silent but matched exactly to my heartbeat. Always a few steps ahead, a rhythm I could neither ignore nor escape. I started sleeping in clothes, knife under my pillow. Exhaustion always won, and each night the presence grew bolder, more confident, more intimate in its movements. Whispers told me things I didn't want to hear, tasks I didn't want to do. My body obeyed anyway, as if another version of me had taken control. Scratches multiplied across arms, legs, even my back, forming shapes I didn't recognize, as though some version of me had been practicing messages without my consent. I avoided mirrors entirely, carrying my reflection like a secret I wasn't allowed to see, aware that each glance might reveal something I couldn't unlearn. I caught glimpses in doorways, shadows shaped like me, moving independently, pausing just long enough to study how I reacted to my own environment. The kitchen table bore gouges aligned perfectly with my hands, as if I had been pressed into it unwillingly while asleep. Each indentation deliberate, patient, knowing. I stopped leaving the house. I stopped answering calls. I stopped trusting the senses I had relied on for decades. One night, I felt my body lean impossibly toward the ceiling. The floorboards vibrating with pressure I could neither measure nor escape. The voice inside me wasn't whispering anymore, spoke clearly through my own mouth, words forming on my tongue before I realized I had said them. I began finding messages written in my own hand. Do it. Don't resist. I am still here, scattered across walls, mirrors, drawers, each one precise and familiar. I tried screaming. Sound bounced back at me, distorted, echoing someone else's panic layered over my own. It's as if the house itself had memorized my fear. I stopped, eating, drinking, sleeping. My body obeyed impulses I didn't understand, guided by the presence, learning how I moved, breathed, and hesitated. I caught my own eyes in reflections across rooms, separate from my head, filled with intent I couldn't recognize. Intent that wasn't mine but was mine at the same time. By week 2, the apartment felt impossibly small, walls bending, shadows reflecting someone else inside me. Testing, waiting, patient beyond anything I could rationally endure. I packed a bag in the early hours, leaving everything behind, hoping movement would reset it, but the presence left too, folded into me, silent and observant. Even now, in new apartments, I feel shifts beneath the floorboards. The whisper of my own voice, shaping decisions before I act, teaching me patience, precision, obedience. Sometimes I see myself in mirrors and hesitate, unsure if it's me staring back, or the version it trained. The one that has learned every weakness, every hesitation. I feel it when I walk through doorways, in hallways, even in sunlight. Its patience is infinite. Its study is unending. It remembers every movement I make. I try to ignore it, but I can feel subtle changes in my body. The way I sit, the way I stand, shadows lengthening as if for it alone. Sometimes, I wake in rooms I don't remember entering. Furniture moved, floors pressed down by weight that isn't mine but is undeniably there. I tell myself I'm imagining it, that sleep deprivation is making me hallucinate. But the scratches, the whispers, the handwriting, none of that is imagination. I lock doors, barricade windows, avoid mirrors, but it adapts, and I adapt, and still, it learns. I am not alone, and I never have been. Even now, I can feel it in my chest, learning my heartbeat, guiding my hands, anticipating my decisions. Waiting for the precise moment I falter, and it will know everything. The thing behind the walls. I moved into the house because it was quiet, it's empty, and cheap, and I thought solitude would be peaceful. I was wrong almost immediately. The first night, I heard faint scratching behind the bedroom wall, precise, rhythmic, like nails testing each board carefully, measuring me before I even moved. I told myself it was rodents, maybe the plumbing, anything to avoid thinking about another presence in the house. By midnight, the scratching formed patterns. Not random, scratches aligned, deliberate, as if someone or something was leaving messages in a language I didn't know. I lay awake, heart hammering, trying to convince myself it couldn't hear my thoughts, couldn't anticipate my movements, but the pattern shifted each time I blinked. The next morning, I found faint dust smudges on the floorboards, traces of weight that hadn't been there before, forming lines that led to my bed. I tried locking all doors, windows, even closets, but nothing mattered. It had already learned every crack, hinge, and warped plank in the house. My own footsteps became unfamiliar. I could feel them echoing differently, as if the house through it was recording my rhythm, storing my movements for later. The scratches multiplied along the walls, curling, jagged, like fingers stretching across paint, forming shapes that didn't make sense but felt threatening. Mirrors became unbearable. Sometimes I caught glimpses of movement behind my reflection, subtle, deliberate, mimicking gestures I hadn't made but could feel in my bones. I left notes everywhere, writing warnings. Don't sleep, don't let it touch you, check everything. By morning, each note had been altered in my handwriting. It learned my schedule, my habits, even my small quirks. It pressed against me in ways I couldn't explain, testing boundaries I didn't know I had. I tried sleeping in the living room, kitchen, even the attic. But it followed, patient, silent, leaving only faint movements, the pressure of its presence tangible. Footsteps echoed at night, matching my breathing, slowing when I froze, accelerating when I moved. Always teaching, always studying, a pattern I could never escape. Sometimes I woke with scratches along my arms, shoulders, even back, shallow but precise. As if the thing had been tracing letters only it could understand. Stopped looking in mirrors entirely, carrying my reflection like a dangerous secret, knowing that any glance might reveal something I couldn't unsee. Objects shifted subtly. Chairs, tables, frames rearranged just enough to unsettle, just enough to prove it was aware, patient, and always present. But the kitchen smelled faintly metallic, an odor I couldn't place, trailing each step, as if the air itself had been claimed by it. I caught glimpses in doorways, fleeting shadows, shaped like me but moving independently, pausing only to observe my reactions, learning which gestures betrayed fear. By week 2, the house felt impossibly small. Walls bent subtly, hallways lengthened, corners sharpened, and every step I took felt anticipated. The presence pressed on me without touching, a weight that settled in my chest, my stomach, my limbs, guiding me without sound or gesture. I tried screaming. My own voice echoed back, distorted, layered with whispers that weren't mine, teaching me fear, precision, and patience. I stopped eating, drinking, sleeping. My body obeyed impulses I didn't recognize, moved as if I were a puppet rehearsing another life. I found scrawled messages in my own handwriting. Do it. Don't resist. I am learning. Cross walls, mirrors, drawers, each one unnervingly exact. I caught my own eyes staring from reflections, separate from my head, filled with intent I couldn't recognize. Intent that wasn't mine, yet undeniably mine. Even during daylight, I felt it. The pressure in hallways, a shift in floorboards, these shadows lengthening slightly too early, waiting for mistakes I couldn't avoid. I packed a bag, leaving everything behind. Floors creaked, doorknobs resisted subtly. Light switches moved at the last second, like the house itself was aware of my escape. I ran before dawn. The house fell silent after, but the sensation didn't leave. I felt it folded into me, patient, observing, waiting. Even now, in new apartments, I feel scratches in my skin, whispers in the air, and glimpses of movement that shouldn't exist, reminding me the house is still inside me. It hasn't forgotten, never will. The voicemail was dated tomorrow. The voicemail was time-stamped tomorrow morning, which made no sense, because it thanked me for returning a call I hadn't received yet, using my voice, calm and unmistakably awake. I assumed it was a glitch until I noticed the number was mine, dialed from my phone while it sat untouched on the kitchen counter. The message mentioned the rain starting soon and asked if I remembered to lock the back door, something I always forgot until after it mattered. Sighed. The sky was clear, the street dry. But the weather app refreshed itself and quietly shifted to show storms arriving within minutes, unexpectedly nearby. I played the voicemail again, listening for clues, and realized the background noise sounded like my apartment, down to the humming refrigerator at night softly. When the rain started exactly as promised, I felt a small, private panic. The kind reserved for coincidences that behave like schedules, already forming again. A second voicemail arrived an hour later, thanking me for checking the locks, and apologizing for standing too close to the window across from outside. I live alone on the 3rd floor, and no one stands near my windows unless they're invited, or they're part of the building itself watching. That night, I stayed awake, lights on, phone face up, waiting to catch myself doing something I couldn't remember deciding to do earlier while asleep. Hey, at 3:12 a.m., my phone vibrated with a draft voicemail, already recorded, already addressed to me. It's labeled simply as follow-up, regarding tonight's weather outside conditions. In it, my voice described the room perfectly, the position of my chair, the way I kept glancing toward the hallway without moving once. The message ended by reminding me to stay still, because movement made it harder to keep everything aligned tonight across the building floors together. I didn't sleep, but sometime before dawn I lost time anyway, waking on the couch with my shoes on and the door open nearby. Another voicemail waited, praising how cooperative I'd been, noting fewer corrections were needed once I stopped resisting and followed the routine exactly as requested tonight. It explained the process gently, how patterns were easier to maintain when a person supplied their own confirmations willingly through recordings and compliance alone. I realized then the voicemails weren't messages, they were rehearsals, keeping my future responses consistent across small but important variations in time loops nightly. The rain stopped abruptly, as predicted, and the building settled with a sigh that felt relieved rather than mechanical, as if listened earlier, carefully. A final voicemail arrived while I was fully awake, thanking me for matching the tone correctly this time and improving response latency metrics overall. It asked for permission next, phrased like courtesy, to begin making outgoing calls on my behalf tomorrow during expected downtime hours while I sleep. I deleted everything, powered off my phone, and sat in silence, confident that cutting the line would stop it from reaching me again tonight. The landline I never use rang once, then twice, then stopped exactly when I lifted the receiver without hearing any sound at all there. My voice spoke anyway, calm and helpful, assuring someone on the other end that I was available for scheduled confirmation tasks starting tomorrow morning. I didn't recognize what I said, but the cadence matched the voicemails perfectly. It's practiced, efficient, correct, without hesitation or emotional variance in delivery tonight. When the call ended, my phone powered itself back on, battery full, notifications cleared, ready as if prepared for workday assignments, already queued. I tried screaming, but even that sounded scheduled, arriving at the right volume, ending before neighbors could notice through shared walls nearby at all. The voicemail stopped after that, replaced by outgoing call logs I didn't remember making, all brief, all successful, spaced at reasonable intervals throughout nights. They were confirmations, check-ins, small assurances delivered in my voice to people who sounded relieved to hear it even when I wasn't there listening. I stopped answering unknown numbers, but that didn't matter, because the calls weren't for me anymore. They were rehearsing without consent, using my pattern. Last night, I received a voicemail from my mother, thanking me for calling and reminding me to rest before tomorrow's busy schedule again soon. I never called her, but when I checked the log, my phone had exactly the right time according to historical behavior patterns learned. She sounded comforted, which I think is the point. Because cooperation improves when fear is replaced with trust, and routines remain unbroken over time. My phone is charging beside me now, screen dark, microphone active, waiting patiently for me to stop watching so it can practice alone again. The streetlight learned my name. The streetlight outside my apartment flickered every night at exactly the moment I thought about looking at it, which felt impossible until it happened often enough to feel intentional. I noticed it first because it never turned off, even during the day, slowing faintly like it was waiting for night to arrive faster. At first, the flicker felt random, a tired bulb reacting to wind or wiring, until I realized it only happened when I was awake and aware. If I passed the window without thinking about it, nothing happened, but the second I acknowledged it, the light responded with a soft, deliberate pulse. I tested it, standing in the dark, counting slowly, refusing to look, and the light stayed steady until my attention finally slipped toward it. The moment I noticed it again, it flickered twice, as if confirming that the connection still worked between us, quietly. That night, I dreamed of standing under it, not looking up, just knowing it was there, humming softly, adjusting brightness to match my breathing. I woke to find my phone open on the nightstand, Notes app active, with my name typed repeatedly in lowercase, no timestamps, no explanation. I don't remember typing it, but the letters were arranged exactly how I space things when I'm tired and careful. The next evening, the streetlight flickered before I even reached the window, as if it had learned my routine faster than I expected. I felt a strange relief, the kind that comes from being recognized, even though I hadn't told anyone where I lived yet. When I stood beneath it outside, the light dimmed slightly, enough to make the surrounding street feel like it was receding politely. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a notification without an app name, displaying only my name again, followed by the word "here." I backed away, and the light brightened immediately, flooding the street, correcting my movement like a suggestion rather than a command. Neighbors passed without reacting, walking through the glow as if nothing unusual was happening, as if they weren't being included. I stopped sleeping near the window, but the flickers still came, faintly visible through walls. Syncing with the moment, I became aware. Soon, it didn't need the streetlight anymore, using reflections instead. Pulsing in dark screens, spoons, glass, anywhere I could see myself. I covered mirrors, powered down devices, and sat in darkness, only to feel the room adjust, lightless, but still attentive. My thoughts started arriving early, finishing themselves, like something else was rehearsing them before I fully decided to think them. One night, my phone rang with no number, and when I answered, I heard the hum of electricity and my own name spoken softly. The voice didn't sound human or mechanical, just accurate, like it had practiced pronunciation for a long time without rushing. It thanked me for noticing it consistently and asked if I preferred illumination or reflection going forward, phrased like a courtesy. I didn't answer, and the call ended anyway, satisfied, as if silence itself had been recorded as a response. After that, the light followed me, not physically, but conceptually, peering wherever attention lingered too long without supervision. In stores, screens brightened when I passed. In hallways, bulbs hummed louder, all slightly delayed, matching my awareness exactly. I realized then it wasn't watching me. It was tracking recognition, feeding on the moment I noticed it, noticing me back. The streetlight outside finally turned off one morning, permanently dark, as if it had graduated to something more portable. That night, my apartment felt brighter with everything unplugged, like the light had learned how to exist without being seen. I wake now whenever my thoughts slow down, because that's when it practices my name again, softly, patiently, inside the dark. I don't look for it anymore, but sometimes I feel a flicker behind my eyes, waiting for me to notice. The elevator didn't stop for everyone. The elevator skipped my floor the first time, which wasn't unusual, except the button light stayed on and the doors paused like they were considering something carefully. I rode it daily, same schedule, same time, and it always stopped for me, even when other floors were busy or impatient. That morning, it went straight past my floor and continued upward, smooth and confident, as if it knew I wasn't meant to get off yet. I waited for it to correct itself, finger hovering over the emergency button, but it stopped one floor above and opened to an empty hallway. The door stayed open longer than normal, inviting, patient, until I stepped out without fully deciding to. The hallway looked like mine, but subtly wrong. Carpet darker, lights warmer, exit sign humming louder than it should have. Behind me, the elevator doors closed softly, and when I turned, the call button panel was missing entirely. I walked to the stairwell, but the door wouldn't open. Not locked, just unresponsive, like it no longer recognized me as valid access. A sound came from above, footsteps descending slowly, matching my breathing and rhythm without speeding up or falling behind. I froze, and the footsteps stopped too, respectful, waiting for my next action like a system awaiting input. I returned to where the elevator should have been, pressing the blank wall where the button used to be out of habit. The wall warmed under my palm, faintly vibrating, and somewhere below, machinery adjusted itself in response. The elevator returned silently, doors opening without a chime, revealing the same interior but slightly narrower than before. I stepped inside, heart racing, and noticed new floor numbers on the panel, labeled, glowing faintly beneath the familiar ones. Before I could think, the doors closed and the elevator moved sideways instead of up or down, gliding smoothly like this was expected. The air felt compressed, heavy with the sensation of being measured, scanned, corrected in real time. A voice didn't speak, but instructions arrived anyway, a certainty that I should remain still to avoid recalibration. The elevator stopped, doors opening to reveal another hallway, this one lined with doors that all had my apartment number on them. From behind several doors came quiet sounds of movement, subtle, domestic, as if versions of my life were continuing without me. The elevator doors began to close again, and panic finally broke my paralysis as I forced my way out into the corridor. The moment my foot crossed the threshold, every door went silent at once, as if I'd interrupted something rehearsed. Lights dimmed together, and I felt the building tighten its focus, adjusting for an unexpected variable now present. A door opened nearby, and I saw myself step out, calmer, dressed differently, looking relieved to see me. He smiled like this, solved a problem, and gestured toward the elevator, which waited patiently behind him. I understood then that the building didn't lose people. It redistributed them, keeping the versions that fit best. I ran, choosing a random door, bursting inside to find my exact apartment, unchanged, waiting, lights on. Behind me, the hallway reshuffled, walls sliding quietly, correcting paths, trying to converge again. I locked the door and waited until morning, when sunlight finally broke through the windows and everything felt normal enough. The elevator worked fine after that, stopping on my floor, opening politely, never skipping again. But sometimes, when I ride alone, it pauses between floors, and I feel it hesitate, like it's remembering a better option. My phone started vibrating before I made decisions. I noticed it because my phone vibrated even though there was no notification. It's just a soft pulse, like it was checking whether I was still holding it. After that, it started happening a few times a day, always when I was distracted, always stopping the moment I looked directly at the screen. I assumed it was a hardware issue, maybe a loose motor, until the vibrations began lining up with moments I hesitated before making small decisions, standing in the grocery aisle, unsure which brand to grab. The phone pulsed once in my pocket, sharp and brief, and when I reached for the cheaper option, it stopped. The first time I ignored it on purpose, the vibration repeated, slightly stronger, like a correction rather than an alert. I checked every setting I could find, disabled notifications, background activity, even accessibility features, but the behavior didn't change. It never vibrated randomly. It only happened when I paused, waiting to cross the street, hovering over send, deciding whether to answer a call. I noticed the pattern. It became impossible to unsee, like realizing someone is always just a step behind you. The phone didn't vibrate when I made confident choices. It's only when I stalled, only when there were multiple options in front of me. I tested it one night by standing in my kitchen, deciding whether to turn left toward the sink or right toward the fridge. Nothing happened until I froze in place. Then the vibration came, deliberate, almost patient, and when I stepped toward the sink, it stopped immediately. That was the first moment I felt something like relief, which bothered me more than the vibration itself. Over the next few days, I started letting it guide small things, just to see if the pattern held. Which email to answer first, which route to take home, whether to stay up late or go to bed. Every time I followed the vibration, things went smoothly, uneventfully, like friction had been removed from my day. When I didn't, something minor went wrong. A missed call, a delayed train, a typo I didn't catch. Nothing dramatic, just enough to notice. I told myself it was confirmation bias, that my brain was assigning meaning where none existed, till the phone vibrated while it was sitting untouched on my desk. I wasn't deciding anything at the time, just staring at my screen, rereading a message I hadn't replied to yet. Okay. The vibration didn't stop when I looked at the phone. It stopped when I started typing. The message was short, non-committal, something I wouldn't normally send, but the vibration eased as I typed, fading completely the moment I hit send. The reply came almost immediately, thanking me for being clear. That night, I dreamed about standing in a long hallway full of doors, each one labeled with a choice I hadn't made yet. In the dream, my phone vibrated continuously until I woke up. After that, the vibration changed slightly, becoming more precise, less frequent, like it didn't need to correct me as often. I realized I was moving faster, making decisions without lingering, trusting the absence of vibration as confirmation I was doing it right. Friends commented that I seemed more decisive lately, calmer, like I'd finally figured something out. I didn't mention the phone. One afternoon, while deciding whether to leave work early, the vibration came late, after I'd already stood up. It pulsed twice, sharper than usual, and when I sat back down, it stopped. I stayed. That evening, an accident shut down the freeway just minutes after I would have been driving on it. I stared at my phone for a long time after that, feeling something uncomfortably close to gratitude. The next morning, I noticed the vibration happening before I was consciously aware of a choice, like it was anticipating the pause. I'd feel the impulse to hesitate, and the phone would already be vibrating, preemptively. That was when I tried to leave it behind. I went out without it, locking it in a drawer, determined to prove I didn't need whatever this was. The day felt wrong immediately, heavier, full of small resistances, every decision taking longer than it should. I missed turns, forgot appointments, sent the wrong file to the wrong person. When I got home, the phone was vibrating inside the drawer, steady and relentless, like it had been doing it the entire time. I didn't check the battery level until later. It hadn't dropped at all. That night, as I lay in bed, trying not to think about it, the vibration came again, even though the phone was across the room. I realized then that I wasn't reacting to the vibration anymore. I was waiting for it, a teen. Whatever was guiding me was getting better at knowing when I would hesitate. I found a door inside my reflection. I first noticed it during a night shift bathroom break, when my reflection blinked a half-second late. It's like it needed time to decide whether to copy me. The mirror was old, spotted with black corrosion around the edges. but the center was clean enough to see my face hesitate, then finally catch up. I leaned closer, breath fogging the glass, and saw something behind my reflection that wasn't behind me, a dark vertical seam running down the wall. When I turned around, the seam wasn't there. Just the stained tile and a flickering fluorescent light buzzing like it was nervous. I faced the mirror again, and the seam was clear now, its narrow door frame carved into the reflected wall, breathing softly like something asleep. Skuh. I told myself it was fatigue, the kind you get when nights blur together. But my reflection didn't look tired, looked alert, almost relieved. It raised its hand before I did, palm pressed flat against the glass, fingers slightly bent like they were gripping something on the other side. I stumbled back, heart hammering, and when I looked again, the doorframe was closer, wider, its edges warped like wet wood. The next night, I avoided the bathroom mirror, washing my hands with my head turned. But I still felt watched, like someone memorizing my movements. At home, every reflective surface started acting wrong, windows showing rooms I didn't recognize. Tease. My phone screen staying lit after I locked it. In one dark window, I saw my reflection standing in a hallway I'd never been in, the same narrow door pulsing behind it. I started sleeping with lights on, but the reflections didn't care about light, the angles, only moments when I wasn't looking directly. By the fourth night, my reflection smiled when I didn't, teeth too many, smiles stretched like it had practiced without lips. It tapped on the glass from the inside, slow and patient, like it knew I'd eventually answer. I covered every mirror in my apartment with towels, but they kept slipping off overnight, folded neatly on the floor. Behind the towels, faint fingerprints appeared on the glass, smeared inward, like something had tried to climb through. At work, I finally touched the bathroom mirror again, and the surface felt warm, flexible, like skin pulled tight over a doorway. My reflection leaned in close, whispering without sound, pointing over its shoulder at the door now fully formed behind it. Through the doorway, I saw my apartment, lights off, my body asleep on the couch, chest barely moving. The reflection mouthed that it was my turn, that it had been holding the door open for days. I yanked my hand back, skin stinging, and the mirror cracked down the center with a sound like a bone snapping. For a moment, everything went normal again, reflections behaving, doors gone, the world pretending nothing happened. That night, I woke up standing in my bathroom, barefoot on cold tile, my hands already pressed to the mirror. On the other side, my reflection looked terrified, pounding silently, begging me not to open the door behind me. I felt a draft on my neck, the soft inhale of a space learning how to breathe. The door in the mirror wasn't behind my reflection anymore, it was behind me. I heard it open without hinges, without sound, just absence widening where a wall should be. Something gently guided my shoulders back, careful not to rush, like it wanted the exchange to be clean. As I crossed the threshold, I caught one last glimpse of myself, trapped behind glass, screaming into a world that would never hear it. Now I watch from mirrors, waiting for someone else to notice the delay, the hesitation, the door hiding in plain sight. If you're listening late at night and your reflection feels off, don't look away too fast. That's how it knows you're ready. The system that watches. I woke to a faint humming at 2:58 a.m. My laptop screen flickered on. A single folder appeared. Your schedule. It contained every action I would take tomorrow. I opened the first file. My fingers hovered above the keyboard, yet on screen, they moved flawlessly, faster, and more deliberate than mine. The next file was a video. My reflection in the monitor didn't match me. It smiled before I did. I tried closing the folder. Every copy displayed me performing actions I hadn't yet attempted. A low buzzing filled the room. Shadows bent unnaturally across walls, forming shapes that resembled my own body, mirroring my movements independently. The folder contained instructions: observe, correct, synchronize. Each line detailed subtle adjustments: posture, speech, even the tilt of my head. I tested the system, typed nonsense. The folder corrected every mistake instantly, rearranging words and punctuation perfectly. I left the apartment. Reflections in shop windows displayed two versions of me, one real, one perfected, moving slightly ahead, anticipating every gesture. I returned. Furniture was subtly rearranged, mug rotated, keys shifted, chair angled differently, all recorded in the files. A new video played, me asleep, eyes twitching, lips stretching unnaturally. Posture rigid, yet fluid in ways I couldn't replicate. I tried unplugging my laptop. The folder persisted, glowing faintly in reflections, shadows, and black surfaces around the room. I left notes for myself. They corrected themselves, phrasing sharper, handwriting refined, tone adjusted to precision. I realized the system wasn't just observing, it was training a copy capable of replacing me entirely. I went outside. Shadows along the street mirrored a perfected version, always one step ahead, always correcting me. I returned. The system updated automatically, my schedule perfectly predicted, my errors corrected before I could make them. A new file appeared. Synchronization Module 3. Merge. My double's eyes blinked in anticipation. I recorded myself. Playback showed grotesque improvements. Eyes sharper, fingers bending impossibly, toaster rigid, movements subtly predatory. I tried leaving the city. Returning, the apartment aligned perfectly to the system's requirements. I unplugged all devices. Reflections and shadows continue the training, glowing faintly, always observing. I tested limits, typed random commands aloud. The system corrected every word, even tone and intention. I slept lightly. Dreams invaded by dozens of copies, all whispering instructions, performing actions I hadn't yet executed. I woke, sweating. Reflections moved independently, smiling wider than mine, eyes sharper, posture predatory. I tried following instructions. Every movement mirrored and improved instantly, no mistakes allowed. I understood deviation meant replacement. Every step, every choice mattered. I left the apartment. Reflections, shadows, and screens displayed a perfected version, always one step ahead, always learning. Morning came. Devices silent. Surfaces hinted at the system, silently practicing, perfecting, preparing to replace me entirely. I realized the truth. Awareness doesn't prevent it. Resistance doesn't prevent it. It's only compliance slows it, and even then, it waits. I unplugged everything permanently. Yet shadows twitched, reflections warped. Glossy surfaces glimmered with a version of me that wasn't real. The tongue that learned lies. I always thought I was a decent liar until my own mouth started talking without permission, twisting words, shaping sentences I didn't intend. A tongue with its own grotesque agenda. It began with whispers I couldn't recall forming, subtle inflections, syllables curling against teeth. Speaking thoughts I hadn't yet entertained, precise, patient, and intelligent beyond comprehension. At dinner, words slipped out before thought. Conversations skewed, micro-reactions amplified. People paused, confused, unnerved. I realized the tongue wasn't mine, it was learning me, testing me. Even brushing teeth became terrifying. The tongue rolled, stretched, pressed in ways that anticipated my movements, forming shapes and gestures I hadn't consciously performed. I tried swallowing carefully, pressing lips together, biting down. The tongue moved anyway, curling, twisting, shaping phrases, rehearsing syllables, grotesque and patient. Alive inside my mouth. Even drinking water revealed it. Subtle pressure against lips, cheeks, throat. Guiding motion, rehearsing micro-gestures beyond conscious command. I noticed subtle bruises along the inside of cheeks and gums, tiny abrasions forming as if the tongue practiced movements independently, learning speed, precision, articulation. I tried speaking slowly, carefully, the tongue anticipated, inserting inflections, shaping words, changing meanings subtly, creating sentences I hadn't intended but could not stop. Sleep became unbearable. Dreams were rehearsals. Tongue twisted, pressed, shaped words in patterns I hadn't yet imagined, whispering things I wouldn't dare utter awake. Even swallowing became an act of surrender. Each gulp, carefully manipulated, guided, rehearsed by a grotesque intelligence inside me, patient, precise, eternal. I began noticing faces, shifting in reflections, lips moving in sync with tongue's autonomous gestures, whispering unintelligible syllables, almost communicating in grotesque code. Even writing felt influenced. The tongue guided micro-movements of my mouth, shaping speech I recorded, subtly altering meaning, rehearsing lies, confessions, mockery I didn't consciously intend. I tried masks, silence, isolation. Tongue adapted, curling, pressing, twisting, forming expressions under teeth and lips. Patient, grotesque, perfectly aware of my terror. Even small gestures, smiling, yawning, murmuring were influenced, to quate. Micro-expressions traced, rehearsed, gestures mimicked, eyes widening, lips curling, grotesque choreography of mouth and tongue. I began whispering silently, pleading, bargaining, tongue ignored all commands, patient, eternal, shaping, twisting, rehearsing, learning language, gestures, tension I hadn't yet conceived. Even in mirrors, I noticed subtle changes, small bulges, ripples, micro-twitches, grotesque movements, coordinating expressions I hadn't yet intended to perform. Conversations were impossible to control. Tongue-shaped emphasis, syllables, pauses. Colleagues noticed subtle oddities, micro-flinches, expressions rehearsed by grotesque intelligence beneath my teeth. Even biting tongue against teeth didn't stop it. Movements persisted, shaping words, whispering inflections, teasing, precise, patient, grotesque. I began noticing patterns, phrases repeated, cadence rehearsed. Micro-lies forming spontaneously, practiced and perfected by the tongue's grotesque intelligence. Eating became horrifying, tongue-guided chewing, swallowing, tasting, pressing, stretching, rehearsing, leaving marks of independent life inside my own mouth. I tied, recording myself. Playback sounded normal. The intelligence existed beyond sound, beneath skin and teeth, patient, observing, rehearsing, unexposed to perception. Even the simplest utterance, yes, no, hello, were rehearsed, guided. Micro-inflections twisted, subtle deviations that made speech alien yet intimate, grotesque and terrifying. I tried sedation, alcohol, isolation. Nothing mattered. The tongue continued, rehearsing phrases, words, gestures, patient, grotesque, intelligent, eternal. Even laughter became impossible to trust. Tongue-shaped syllables, micro-expressions, timing, gestures, producing inflections I couldn't claim. rehearsed beyond conscious intent. I stopped trying to resist. Compliance only made movements smoother, phrases sharper, inflections grotesque, precise, terrifyingly intelligent. Even now, words I speak feel rehearsed before intention. Tongue twists, shapes, practices, tests, patient, grotesque, and I am only the vessel, the hands that wrote without me. I woke to find my hands moving before thought, tracing words I hadn't intended, scribbling sentences across notebooks with a patience and cruelty that was not mine. At first, I laughed it off. Then I read the words, confessions, plans, fears, grotesque sketches I hadn't conceived. Precise, patient, and terrifyingly deliberate. Even gripping pens became horrifying. Fingers twisted independently, curling, pressing, tapping, shaping strokes into letters, forming phrases rehearsed by a consciousness inside my own flesh. I tried blocking them, placing hands beneath blankets, against table edges, pressing hard. Muscles ignored commands, curling, flexing, tracing lines I didn't control. Even typing became impossible. Hands pressed keys out of sequence, forming messages I hadn't consciously intended. Micro-adjusting pressure and rhythm, grotesque choreography beyond my comprehension. I noticed bruises along knuckles and palms, tiny abrasions forming as if the hands practiced movements in secret. Learning, rehearsing, patient and precise. At work, colleagues noticed odd rhythms, pauses, gestures, slight twitches of fingers, subtle pressure shifts, and all dictated by autonomous hands shaping words I hadn't chosen. Even brushing teeth or washing hands revealed micro-movements. Small gestures, subtle pressure, almost communicating silently with patient intelligence beneath skin. I tried gloves, bandages, splints, muscles adapted, fingers twisted, pressed, tapped, rehearsed, patient, grotesque, precise. Resistance sharpened their efficiency. Sleep was impossible. Hands moved in dreams, tracing letters, gestures, scribbling maps, diagrams, micro-expressions. Rehearsing interactions, grotesque movements I couldn't control awake. Even mundane acts, pouring water, opening doors, were choreographed. Fingers stretched, flexed, adjusted, anticipating motions I hadn't yet intended. Subtle, grotesque, micro-rhythms. I began whispering to them, bargaining, pleading, cursing. They ignored every word, patient, eternal, precise, shaping gestures, phrases, drawings beyond comprehension. I noticed patterns forming, repeated strokes, sequences, micro-shapes, subtle adjustments of pressure, grotesque miniature performances beneath conscious command. Even mirrors revealed unsettling reflections, fingers twitching, flexing, curling in impossible angles. Hands performing gestures I hadn't intended, grotesque choreography of flesh. I tried writing slowly, carefully, hands ignored, tracing sentences ahead of intention, shaping words into confessions, grotesque phrases, rehearsed by a mind inside my own limbs. Even typing emails became nightmarish. Micro-rhythms guided fingers, shaping content, cadence, inflection, gestures, leaving subtle distortions others noticed unconsciously. I felt them learning faster, improvising, creating new sequences, grotesque drawings. Tiny micro-sketches of faces, gestures, postures I hadn't yet conceived. Even touching objects became perilous. Fingers pressed, traced, manipulated surfaces in anticipation, leaving evidence of intelligence beyond perception. I tried isolation, Blank pages, empty rooms, quiet spaces. Hands continued, patient, grotesque, precise, rehearsing patterns invisible to anyone else. Even the simplest movements, turning doorknobs, shifting papers, pouring drinks were choreographed, micro-adjusted, guided, leaving evidence of grotesque autonomy beneath skin. I noticed subtle bruises along wrists, palms, king joints, traces of deliberate pressure. Rehearsal, intelligence, learning my body, practicing gestures, mapping space. At night, I felt fingers twitch beneath covers, tracing unseen lines, performing grotesque micro-gestures. Patient, eternal, rehearsing beyond conscious comprehension. Even brushing hair or adjusting clothing revealed movements independent of thought. Fingers stretching, curling, tracing, observing, rehearsing, grotesque precision. Tease, began surrendering partially, letting hands move. Compliance, only refined gestures. Rehearsals, writing, drawing, grotesque intelligence, growing sharper, more patient, more unsettling. I observed in horror. His fingers traced letters, shapes, diagrams, gestures, rehearsing, learning, recording, patient, grotesque, beyond control. Even now, as I sit, my hands move slightly, tracing microlines, twitching, curling, rehearsing, shaping phrases and drawings I cannot stop, patient, grotesque, and I am only the vessel.